Welcome back, listeners. Tonight, we're going to take a deep dive into something truly chilling. We're talking about the Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of sources,
Yeah.
several of Wikipedia articles, one on Ronald DeFeo Jr. and another on the actual supposed haunting itself.
Right.
We also found an article on biography.com, and then there's a really interesting piece on SYFY Wire, too.
Cool.
So let's see if we can figure out, between all these different sources, what really went down in that infamous house.
You know, it's funny. What makes this case so fascinating is that it's not just some ghost story.
Right.
It starts with a very real crime.
Oh, absolutely.
The DeFeo murders.
Yeah, November 13th, 1974. The DeFeo family, picture it, they're living in their Long Island home. Everything seems normal. Then, bam, their son, Ronald DeFeo Jr., just 23 years old, grabs a .35 caliber rifle.
Jeez.
And he murders his entire family.
Wow.
Parents, his 4 younger siblings. Gone. Like that.
And the Wikipedia entry, it's just full of these horrific details, like how all the victims were found face down in their beds.
Jeez.
And the children, they were all shot just once. But the parents, they were shot twice.
Oh, God.
There's even evidence to suggest that 2 of them, Louise DeFeo and her daughter Allison, they might have been awake when it happened.
I mean, can you imagine the terror in those last moments?
And then you read DeFeo's confession. It's just bone-chilling, He says, once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast.
It's terrifying. I mean, that complete lack of remorse.
And that's where the psychology of it all gets really interesting, because DeFeo's story, well, it changed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
At first, he tries to pin it on a mob hitman.
Right.
Then he confesses. But later, he starts giving all these wildly different versions of what happened that night.
So was he playing games, trying to manipulate everyone? Or was it something, I don't know, darker? Something that messed with his perception of reality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It goes right to the core of his defense strategy.
Right.
His lawyer, he pushes for an insanity plea, saying DeFeo didn't remember anything about the murders.
And the prosecution?
Well, their psychiatrist, he argued that DeFeo had antisocial personality disorder, which basically means he was fully aware of what he was doing, no empathy for his victims.
Just cold. Calculated.
Exactly. They said he knew exactly what he was doing that night.
And looking at the evidence presented at the trial, it kind of backs them up. No silencer on the rifle. There were no signs of a struggle from any of the victims.
It paints a pretty grim picture, doesn't it?
Chilling. DeFeo just going from room to room, methodically executing his entire family.
That's a tough one to swallow.
And then there's this detail about Dawn DeFeo's nightgown. They found unburned gunpowder on it. Some people point to that as evidence, that maybe she fired a weapon.
Right, but that's actually a misunderstanding. During the trial, an expert testified that the unburned powder really just meant she was close to the muzzle of the gun when it fired, not that she actually fired it herself.
Okay, so this actually supports the idea that she was right there when it happened.
Exactly. So where does that leave us? We have this horrible crime, a convicted killer, and this house soaked in the blood of an entire family. Hard to imagine anyone wanting to live there, isn't it?
You'd think so, right?
But only 13 months later, a family, the Lutz family, they buy the house.
Really?
They got it for a steal.
That's a steal.
Only $80,000? Guess they were drawn in by the price. I bet they had no idea what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah, no idea.
The biography.com article, it really goes deep into what the Lutz family went through. It's like descent into this total nightmare.
Yeah.
Almost right after they moved in, they started experiencing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, so they'd wake up every single night at 3:15 a.m.
Really?
Right around the time the murders happened.
Oh, wow.
Imagine that, right? You're jolted awake in the middle of the night. Something feels totally off, but you don't know what it is. But that was just the start. They also talked about this green slime oozing from the walls.
Oh.
From the keyholes, too.
That's just nasty.
It's a really disturbing image, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And then there are these cold spots all over the house, like really intense cold spots.
It's almost like you can feel the dread,
Exactly. And we can't forget about the entities, the things they supposedly encountered.
Okay, yeah, tell me about those.
One was this creature. It was like a pig, but with glowing red eyes just staring at them.
Oh, God. Just reading about it, it's like that image is burned into my brain.
And then there's this story about a priest.
Okay.
He goes to bless the house, right? He's praying, and all of a sudden he hears this voice, this deep, disembodied voice telling him to get out.
Wow. That's scary. Gives me chills just thinking about it.
Seriously, it's like the evil from the murders just, I don't know, seeped into the house itself, stained it with this darkness.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And there's the levitation too, right?
Oh, yeah. George Lutz, his kids too, they all claim to have experienced it. Imagine feeling yourself being lifted off the ground by some unseen force.
Crazy.
It defies explanation. You almost have to consider the possibility that something supernatural was going on.
But with all paranormal stuff, there's always that skepticism, right? I mean, were they really experiencing this? Or were they just trying to, cash in on the tragedy?
Yeah, I mean, the SYFY Wire article brings up their financial troubles. They were struggling at the time. And even their lawyer, William Weber, he said they made the whole thing up over, and I quote, many bottles of wine.
Oh, wow. Their own lawyer said that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty serious claim.
It kind of throws a wrench into things, doesn't it?
For sure.
But then you have Daniel Lutz, one of the sons. He insists it was all real. He says the house ruined his life, that he still has nightmares about it all.
Man, this is like so back and forth. How are you supposed to know what's true?
It's almost impossible to separate fact from fiction.
And get this, the article also mentioned that people who lived in the house later, they said nothing paranormal ever happened to them.
Interesting. You'd think if the house was truly evil, it wouldn't matter who lived there, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. Maybe the Lutz family, I don't know, they woke something up, like something that had been dormant.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is. Maybe whatever was there fed on their fear. Got stronger because of it.
That's a terrifying thought. Despite all the inconsistencies, the doubts, you can't deny that the Amityville story, it just blew up. It became a cultural phenomenon.
It's like the house, the murders. They tapped into something, a fear that's deep down in all of us.
Absolutely. The Amityville Horror, it shows just how powerful fear can be, how a truly chilling story can grab people's imaginations and just never let go.
I mean, it sparked all these books and documentaries.
And so many movies.
Yeah, like that 1979 film.
Oh, yeah. Huge box office hit.
And a lot of them, they kind of played fast and loose with the facts.
They did, didn't they?
Like, remember Jodie DeFeo? The little girl in that 2005 remake.
Right.
She wasn't even real.
Completely made up for the movie.
And then there's that whole thing about the Native American burial ground.
Yeah, supposedly right there on the property.
Turns out historians debunk that one pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, totally made up.
So what are we left with? This jumbled mess of truth and lies and speculation.
We've got this brutal crime, a family claiming they were terrorized by God knows what.
Yeah, and this legacy, this story that people still talk about all these years later.
What do you think it is about this story that still resonates with people you know after all these years?
I don't know, is it the horror of those murders? Just the thought of a family slaughtered in their own home.
Yeah, you're supposed to be safe in your home.
Exactly, it's supposed to be a sanctuary.
Chilling.
Or maybe it's that idea that something truly evil attached itself to that place.
Right, and it amplified the darkness that was already inside Ronald DeFeo Jr.
And then continued to torment anyone who lived there after.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
It is that evil can linger in a place even when the person who caused it is long gone.
Like a stain you can't get rid of no matter how hard you scrub.
I think that's what makes it so unsettling.
It really gets under your skin, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you think twice about the places you think are safe.
Makes you wonder what might be lurking right under the surface,
So what do you believe? Was the Amityville house really haunted? Was it all a hoax? Or is the truth somewhere in between? We've laid it all out there, the facts, the evidence, the different perspectives.
We've tried to give you everything you need to form your own opinion.
And I think that's what's so great about this show. You get to decide for yourself.
Exactly. But as we wrap up this deep dive into the Amityville Horror, I think there's one final question we should all consider.
What's that?
What darkness might be hiding just below the surface of our own everyday lives?
Thanks for listening, everybody. And don't forget to check out the sources we used for this deep dive. We'll have links to everything in the show notes.